All right. Welcome to this episode of Market Shares. I'm your host, Tony Blodgett, and I'm really excited about this conversation today that we're doing virtually with my friend Bob Hailey down in Clackamas, Oregon. Bob, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. How you doing, Tony?
Dude, I am doing very well. I'm glad to finally get you on the Market Shares podcast because you have a great business on top of being probably the best dressed guy in mortgage banking. For those of you that don't know Bob has got an outfit for every day of the week and all the accessories to go with it. And I got mad respect for how Bob shows up every day. We even did an event. Do you remember this, Bob? We did an event out on the boat and you showed up in your three-piece suit. It's like,
I did. Yeah, I missed the memo. It was supposed to be casual. So
that's all right. Well, hey, you know what? I'm one of those guys that I don't wear a tie every day, but I've always felt like, we do an important job for a living and, we should show up and we should play the part. And I think people respect that. So I respect you for that. But more than that, Bob, you got a great mortgage practice. And, we talk a lot over the last year and a half about the challenges in today's market. And it's not that you don't have the same challenges in the market that everyone else has, but man, your business has been very steady, if not even, in some ways, increasing in certain parts of it. And I want to talk a little about that today because there's, people that are struggling, people that were top performers in mortgage banking, that their business is way off. Some people 80%, 90%, those that relied heavily on refinance business alone, as an example. And you seem to have done a really good job of staying consistent and continuing to have just a great business. And I think there's something to be learned from that. So I want to get into that today. But before we do that, let's just get a little bit of background, if we could, on you. When did you get into mortgage banking? How did you get into mortgage banking? Let's start there, and then let's kind of progress forward, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Been doing this for 34 years now. It's been a long road. Started out in the banking world. My dad was a basically senior manager at Citicorp, and got me my first job in a warehouse at Citicorp when I was 16 years old. Just kind of been working my way up from there. I got into collections for a while and was really intrigued with how people got themselves in trouble. And I learned the credit side of things from the back to the front. And then I was taking some classes and learned a lot about originations, and was able to take that knowledge from how people maybe made some bad choices and then use that on the front end of the process. So got into it there. I did corporate relocation at Citicorp, and then moved into the broker side of things. And from there, kind of grew into the mortgage banking world. And here we are. So it's been a great ride, and I love this. I love this business.
Yeah, 34 years. You got a couple years on me, but not too many. I'm catching up with you. Well, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your mortgage business as it exists today. Your team, kind of what your kind of day in the life looks like for the Bob Hailey team as it looks today.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a great team. I've got 3 other people on my team besides myself, and I'm the lead. I'm always the front guy with the client. That's a little unique compared to some of the other big teams that are out there. But I'm the front guy. I want that conversation with the client. I want to have that control, and use my skill sets that I've learned over the last 34 years to really direct the flow of the conversation. And then I get all the documentation lined up. We send out Maxwell, our needs list, and that all comes in, and Michael runs that show. He puts together all the income calculations and gets that piece set up for me. And really, it's a matter of us communicating back and forth till we get them approved, and then we get them out there shopping. Once the file comes in, my other assistant, Zach, my son, actually works with the client to get all the conditions that we need, and works with Marcia, my processor, to get the file clear to close and ready for docs. So we've got a pretty streamlined system. Valerie is on my team. She does a great job with really keeping me in front of our referral partners and client events. We do a lot of lunch and learns. We do a lot of education classes, and she kind of runs point with all of that for me. She helps me manage my emails and things like that. So I can do what I do best, and that's just be in front of the client, be in front of our referral partners, and making sure that everybody's taken care of and happy.
Yeah. So pretty traditional team. You got, someone helping you on the front end of the business, getting people to that stage of getting under contract.
Right.
Someone else, Zach, helping you contract to close, and then
Right.
Valerie helping with, marketing, events, and just keeping you organized, right? We all need someone to help keep us
That's
organized.
exactly what it is. Thank God I have somebody doing that. I'd be a mess if I didn't have that.
You and me both, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So maybe talk a little bit about some of the influences in your mortgage business. I know that you have been to, some of Todd Duncan's events, and other people. So maybe, where did you kind of develop your philosophies around how to run and manage your mortgage practice? I mean, was some of it from your father who's in the space, or in banking, or
not a
from
lot.
other
I mean,
coaches?
my dad was in the automobile leasing industry. He wasn't in mortgage directly. He put me in the right place so I could take off. But I think that trial and error for me was a big part of it. I did that for 25 years and just kind of struggled to, it was just my hair on fire all the time. And when I went to Todd Duncan's upper level class, it was 200 people instead of 3,000 at the big event that he does, and it was a classroom setting. That really changed the way I do my business. It was 4 days of intense training. We did a manual that was about 4.5 inches thick in 4 days. We had 12 hours in class, 3 hours of homework every night, and really changed the way I looked at my business. His language piece is what I really picked up on. And I started using language in a very profound way to make sure that I think before I speak, and leading people, leading clients, leading realtor referral partners in a way that really engages them at a very high level that they're not used to. And that really changed my business significantly.
Yeah, well, Todd's definitely like a linguist, right? I mean, the guy has really good words. So if you had to condense it down, if possible, what would you say are the top, maybe 3 or 4 kind of best practices that you implemented in your business after going to the Academy event?
Yeah, I mean, the language piece is number one for sure. And, my scripting, even though I got them all memorized, the scripting was critical. There's just certain things you should say to a client, certain things you shouldn't. And as you develop your scripts, you've got to make sure that you're asking the right questions in a way that keeps the client communicating and gets the information that you need out of them. Same thing with the referral partners. When you're trying to get a new realtor or a new CPA or however you develop your business, it's all about that level of questions that you ask to get those people to engage you where you want them to be. You can sit there and chit chat all day and never really get to the meat of their business. And I learned very quickly that there's certain things you can do and certain questions that you can ask that will really put them in a position where they tell you the truth instead of just giving, high level, very, very basic answers, because you got to dig deep if you're going to help them out.
Yeah. One of the things that you shared with me after you went to that event was really kind of like building a referral network, right? And the ability to engage other people in the same transaction. So talking to a borrower about, who is it that does their financial planning for them? Who does their estate planning? Do they have family attorneys that they work with? I mean, all these people that some people, it's an integral part of how it is they run their family, and other people have never even considered it. So I have to imagine, by being open to having those types of discussions with people, you can either, kind of reaffirm that they're on the right track with how it is that they're thinking about not just, their mortgage, but how it impacts their overall financial picture for their family. And for those that, well, and you can probably get introductions to great people, right? That good
Absolutely.
referrals, but then you find out other people haven't even thought about life insurance, or they haven't even thought about estate planning. They haven't even thought about where to invest their money for retirement. Maybe talk a little bit about your philosophy around that and how that's enhanced your business.
Absolutely. And again, I'll give Todd Duncan the credit for this because he was an integral part of that. And his circle of influence that he does is very profound. And I kind of looked at the opportunities of all of the people that I might be in communication with during a transaction. So, prime example is a financial advisor. So if you've got a borrower that has a financial advisor, you've got a captive audience there that really knows more than I do what their plans are. And when I have somebody that has a financial advisor, I ask their permission to reach out to them, which the client will typically gives me. And I just call the financial advisor and say, hey, we've got a mutual client. I just want to make sure that the 30-year fixed rate mortgage that they just applied with me for fits their overall journey with you. And I can't tell you the impact that has because they're like, okay, no mortgage person has ever called me to ask my permission to do a mortgage for one of my clients. But it really gives the security that their client is communicating with them. I'm asking the right questions, and it really opens the door for that financial advisor to have a call with me because that's my goal. I want to use every person involved with the transaction as a potential referral source. And if you stand out, whatever you do to stand out, the likelihood of that is great.
Yeah. So that's so Todd calls that the circle of influence. Is that what you said it's called? Yeah. I couldn't remember the name of it, but the concept stuck with me, and it just makes so much sense. And like other conversations I've had on this podcast, like these are the kind of conversations that our clients deserve us to be having with them, right? We can't just talk about their mortgage and their interest rate and not think about how it impacts their overall financial goals, both short and long term, right? So
well, and the flip side of that is if you ask somebody if they have a financial advisor and they don't, then that gives you an opportunity to refer out to your person that you work with. So I think it's a two-way street. If they don't have a source, it's an opportunity for you to refer. If they do have a source, it's an opportunity for you to get referrals.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk a little bit about the events that you do. I know that brings in, some business for you. So you mentioned Lunch and Learns. I know that you sponsor some different, events and trade shows or whatnot. Maybe talk a little bit about how that part of your business works, why you feel that that's an important place to contribute your time, effort, and energy.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the major ones that I do every year is the Fallen Officers Foundation here in Oregon. It's a great cause. They do significant work when a officer is killed in the line of duty. They literally pick up the bill for everything. So it's a passion of mine. I just believe that we need to support those men and women as much as we can. And we've done several of their trade shows. They actually do law enforcement education classes where they'll have different parts around the state, and they will do classes, and then I've got a booth outside where I sit with me and Valerie typically go to those, and we just talk with people. We have our tchotchkes out, we chit chat with everybody. The first one we did was down in Astoria during the refi boom, and we got 27 transactions out of 3 days. So it was extremely effective, and we've just stayed with it. It's been lighter more recently just because the market is what it is, but we've continued to invest in that. The other piece that I think is super important is how we go after listing agents. We go after top dogs. We always are constantly looking at our technology that NAF has here for us to look at realtors and how big their numbers are and what type of business they do. And we've got a listing agent that's a high profile agent. We've got some really unique ways where we go after their business. And we've had some pretty good success with getting in and doing lunch and learns for some big teams. The NAF Cash program is huge for us. It's a great way to get in and communicate with new people, new realtors that have never heard of it before. And that's worked out really well.
Yeah, well, and I got to imagine, like with the Fallen Officers, it's, there's business opportunity there. You also get to support something you're passionate about. And it's like the two things, come together very well. It's also, I have to imagine the same thing, when you meet a top producing agent who happens to be a listing agent on one of your deals, it's like, hey, I think that there's things that I could do that bring value to your business. And I know that you believe that. So it's, you get business from it, but you also get to share what it is that you're passionate about. I was going to ask you about NAF Cash because I don't know the statistics, but I know that you're probably one of the top, performers around utilizing that product in particular.
Yeah.
And it works really well. Different states have different costs associated with it because, like in Washington here, we have excise tax. It's a little more affordable in Oregon, but I know you're doing some in Washington as well. So maybe, talk just for a minute about why you think you've had so much success with the NAF Cash program, and is there a particular scenario, a particular situation that a borrower may find themselves in that you think, is kind of the main client, if you will, that ends up taking advantage of this particular product and opportunity?
Yeah, we've had really unique success stories. I'll share a couple of them, but the main person is the person that has a house to sell. I think that's probably the largest grouping of people. We've done 15 successfully closed where they've actually sold their house and bought the house from us. We've got 5, maybe 6 going right now. And that's probably the biggest utilization is somebody's got a house to sell. They're terrified to go buy a new house if they don't know, because they know their house is going to sell. They're terrified that they won't be able to find a house, and we're able to buy that house before they put their house on the market. So that's probably been the biggest utilization. I've had 2 other opportunities where the client's home, for multiple reasons, could not be sold before they moved out. And one was, these couple had a couple of huge dogs that they just shredded the carpet and the baseboards of their home, and weren't able to put it on the market till they got the dogs out. So we let them move into the house, put the dogs in the kennel, and they were able to fix up that house, get it on the market. They made $40,000 more on their house than they thought they were going to, because we were able to get them out of the house to where they could clean up. The other one was a guy in California moving up here, and he was a vintage pinball machine collector. And his house in California that he had to sell was literally full of pinball machines, no furniture except a bed. So the listing agent was like, "What are we going to do? We can't sell this house the way it is." And they got referred to me, and we were able to get him into the house up here, move the pinball machines. They staged his house, and he made almost $100,000 more than what he thought he was going to get, just because they were able to stage the house.
Wow. Those are some, thank you for sharing those stories. It's, you hear a lot about NAF Cash being a great program, but to have kind of those anecdotal, evidence of success there, I think is helpful for people. And, it sounds like really using that program almost like a bridge loan in many cases is helpful, to get them into their new house before they have to sell their old house. And I have to imagine this ties right back into your strategy of reaching out to listing agents. What people don't think about is that it's sellers who probably benefit more from NAF
100%.
Cash than buyers.
Yeah.
I mean, now they're buyers, but they start off as sellers. Listing agents are going to be more likely to find these clients first, right, than a buyer's agent, because they're going to reach out and say, "Hey, I want to list my home, but I don't want to move out until I find another one. What do I do?" That's where NAF Cash can come in.
Yeah, and when I do these lunch and learns, that's what I ask the realtors to do. I say, "Who have you talked to in the last year that didn't decide to sell their house because they were afraid they weren't going to be able to find one?" And they go out and look, and sure enough, it's opened up 4 or 5 different conversations with different clients that they didn't have access to because they had already written them off. So
Wow.
it's really
This,
giving the realtors and listing agents a lot more ability to go back into their database, look at the people that they've actually talked with that didn't move forward, and maybe bring in some of those people back to the map.
yeah. So they got cold leads. They've given up on them, moved on, probably
Right.
forgot about them. You ask them to kind of go back in your memory banks and think of who fits this profile, and you're manufacturing transactions that otherwise didn't exist. Well, I got to say, Bob, the strategies that you're using with NAF Cash, I think are some of the best. And I know that you'll continue to educate the real estate community on this product and continue to see success with it. The last thing that I'd like to ask you is, this is a very tumultuous market, and a lot of people are struggling. You've been doing really well. What would you say is the one thing that you're doing differently in this market that maybe others haven't been doing to have the success that you have right now?
Yeah, I think that you just have to keep doing the work. Um, so many people are a little bit lost or scared or confused on what to do. And you just got to get out there and talk to people. There are deals being done. There are realtors that need help. There are loan officers that are falling down on the job. And I think the opportunity is great. I do a lot of education on the markets. I do a lot of education with my realtors on what's happening with interest rates, what to expect. I do an actual daily update that I send out every business day where I've got 71 realtors on there that just wait for my report to come out to see what the market's doing for the day. So I just think you have to do activities that are productive, not just things to pass the time. And that means you got to be in front of people. I mean, I talked to a realtor the other day that listens to my thing every day. And she said, I feel like I talk to you every day. And I love that because I'm actually not talking to her every day. I'm talking at her every day, but the impact is there. So find ways to connect, find ways to be unique, find ways to get information out there that these realtors are just dying on the vine with. I try to give them language to use with their clients that set themselves apart. Get their clients off the fence. We need buyers, we need sellers to engage, and part of that's on us. And helping our realtors use the right language to communicate with their clients about whether they should wait or not is really important.
Yeah. Well, those are great words of advice. This has been an awesome conversation. I have so much respect, not just for you, but the mortgage practice that you've put together. It's respectable in the marketplace. The results are obvious in your numbers and the relationships that you have. And I look forward to having another conversation with you, maybe in person next time. Either if I'm down there in Oregon or you're up here, we can be face to face and have
That'd be great.
another conversation, because I think there's more things to unpack about Bob Hailey and how it is that he goes about this mortgage business that everyone could learn from. But I want to thank you for dialing in today and being on this. I hope that the audience took something away from this, because a lot of people talk about the challenges in the market, and we're not saying it's not challenging, but there are things that you can do. And you just heard them from Bob, to just do the things, do the things you need to do. Get out there, connect with more people, and give optimism. One of the things I know that Bob does with his education pieces is he's not just giving people things to say, but things to be positive about when they're talking to their clients. And you have to be that beacon of positivity. You have to be willing to find solutions for people. And I know that that's what Bob does with his business. So Bob, thanks for taking the time to be on here today. For the audience, I appreciate you taking the time and investing your time in watching market shares and this conversation. I hope that you share this information with someone that you know in the mortgage or real estate community. Like, subscribe, and we will be dropping another episode next Friday, like we do every Friday. And until Bob, next time I see you, thank you, sir. Thanks again for being on. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for having me, Tony. It was a great time. We'll do it again.